Chers Camerounais, mes chers compatriotes,
Fellow Cameroonians, my dear compatriots, I am convinced that you understand why I am beginning this traditional message by talking about the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic on our planet. In this regard, 2020 will undoubtedly be remembered as a dark year marked by hundreds of thousands of deaths worldwide. Like almost all countries, Cameroon was affected perhaps less severely than other states. Despite our efforts, COVID-19 plunged many families into mourning and seriously hampered the functioning of our economy and society. I take this opportunity to hail once more the dedication of our physicians, nurses, and health personnel as a whole, thanks to whom many lives have been and continue to be saved. It is perhaps too early to draw lessons from this painful episode, which, moreover, is continuing. Needless to recall that this pandemic is not the first, and history has it that epidemics wiped out entire populations, the most recent occurring in the wake of the First World War. Should man take the blame because of his wanton exploitation of the planet's natural resources and his constant engagement in conflicts leading to massacres and diseases, as well as experiments to develop new weapons? I believe the question needs to be asked. Whatever the answer, our era should take credit for clearly posing the problem of the relationship between man and his natural environment. This was, I believe, the objective of the Paris Conference on Global Warming, whose recommendations are still relevant today. In any case, we should not rest on our laurels. I have personally observed that most of our fellow citizens no longer comply with the protective measures prescribed by the government. At a time when everywhere else there is a second wave of the epidemic coupled with the appearance of a new and more contagious strain of the virus, I urge you once again to put on your face masks, to wash your hands regularly, and to consult a physician or any other health personnel if you notice any symptoms. This is the only way to save lives and to curb the spread of the virus. My dear compatriots, our focus on the health situation did not prevent us from devoting ourselves to other essential tasks related to the management of our country, namely maintaining security and peace throughout our national territory, strengthening democratic process, and pursuing our economic, social, and cultural development program. In recent years, our country has been facing external threats, particularly on our eastern border and in the northern part of our country. In the first case, the threat comes from highway robbers lured by easy prey, namely peaceful stock breeders and their herds. In the second, the threat now takes the form of isolated raids by Boko Haram or suicide bomb attempts by teenagers. The effective vigilance and action of our defense and security forces have significantly reduced the activities of these criminals. The situation is different in the northwest and southwest regions, where armed groups maintain an atmosphere of terror and insecurity. They attack isolated communities and educational institutions from time to time to discourage parents from sending their children to school. The list of atrocities and crimes committed by these groups is already long. One of the most heinous of them is that which took place in Kumba recently, resulting in the death of 7 school children with several others injured. This crime, which is a shock to the human conscience, will not go unpunished. All the perpetrators will be hunted down relentlessly and brought to justice. Already public opinion, particularly in the 2 regions concerned, can realize, if that is not yet the case, that these so-called secessionists are actually nothing more than murderers and, what is more murderous, of innocent children. To say that the Kumba carnage caused widespread outrage is an understatement. I would now like to appeal once more to the sense of responsibility of the friendly countries hosting the sponsors and of the organizations financing, running the armed gangs in the northwest and southwest regions through various channels. All those who would be identified at the end of investigations as initiators or accomplices of these odious crimes will answer to their actions. Yet, our government has continued to demonstrate its commitment to openness and dialogue by, for example, releasing many former secessionists and facilitating their reintegration into society. Furthermore, after the major national dialogue, the government fast-tracked the implementation of an ambitious decentralization policy, which includes a special status for our northwest and southwest regions, which takes into account their specificities and aspirations. I once more urge the youth who have been enlisted in armed gangs to come out of the bush and sign up with the disarmament, demobilization and reintegration DDR centers in order to return to a normal life like their other young compatriots. The prevailing insecurity in the northwest and southwest regions has caused untold damage to our economy. Our democracy allows for the peaceful expression of all opinions in compliance with the laws and regulations in force. Otherwise, peace and stability would be jeopardized. I hail the patriotic spirit of those of our fellow citizens in the northwest and southwest regions who are not only increasingly cooperating with the defense and security forces, but are also courageously fighting these armed gangs. They have realized that these gangs are not acting in the interest of the people. I would also like to commend here the bravery of our defense and security forces that have not failed in their duty to protect the integrity and the national territory, the people and property. They deserve the respect and consideration of everyone. I encourage them to keep it up and to remain a Republican force that respects human rights. It is equally regrettable that some of our compatriots who rallied around a personality who failed to achieve his ambitions during the last presidential election took advantage of security and health difficulties to try to stir up a revolt falsely referred to as peaceful marches. Fortunately, very few people took part in these marches, thanks to the majority of Cameroonians. Needless to call that in a democracy, access to political office is secured through the ballot box and not through the street, certain media organs, or social media networks. This is precisely the case in Cameroon, where the democratic process is being conducted in accordance with the provisions of our Constitution and the rules laid down by our laws, as illustrated by the following recent happenings. In March 2018, the term of office of senators was renewed. In October 2018, the head of state was elected with an overwhelming majority. In February 2020, legislative elections were held, with the government securing a comfortable majority in the National Assembly. On the same date, municipal elections put an end to the system of government delegates in major towns, which are now managed by elected mayors. In December 2020, regional elections completed the implementation of the provisions of the decentralization process. Thus, with each passing day, our political will to implement the democratic agenda that is in the line with the genuine aspirations of the Cameroonian people is further strengthened, an agenda initiated upon by accession to the helm of state and which led a few years later to the institution of the multi-party system. To these who are criticizing imperfections of our democracy, I would like to say that it took us just a few decades to put it in place. The major democratic countries, for their part, did so only after several centuries marked by revolutions, civil wars, and even episodes of dictatorship. For my part, I am well aware of all that is still to be done. I am, however, convinced that we are on the right track and that soon we will all be proud of our democratic progress. My dear compatriots, it must be acknowledged that the international context, in particular the coronavirus pandemic and the decline in global growth, took a toll on the performance of our public finance and our economy during the year that is drawing to an end. While maintaining our growth targets, we had to take fiscal consolidation and economic support measures in order to weather these difficult times and enable the implementation of a recovery policy in 2021. Thus, a decision was taken to finalize African Nations Champions CHAN 2021 and African Cup of Nations AFCON in 2022 projects and to continue to implement plans for the reconstruction and development of the Northwest, Southwest and Far North regions. Despite these efforts, it is expected that our growth rate, which had stabilized at about 4% in recent years, will witness a sharp decline in 2020 and that inflation will inch up. This is undoubtedly due to the impact of the global economic downturn and our domestic economic trends, especially the increase in security spending. Nonetheless, Cameroon's economy has maintained a certain capacity to rebound despite the difficulties. Thanks to support from our international partners, and in the event of decline in the pandemic, there is reason to hope for recovery in the coming months. In the same vein, I would now like to draw your attention to the recent launch of our National Development Strategy, NDS, which replaces the Growth and Employment Strategy paper, GSP, that has come to an end. The National Development Strategy defines the main thrust of our planning up to 2030. The document draws lessons from past experiences and sets new goals for the next decade, notably the structural transformation of our economy and inclusive development. It will therefore be necessary to step up the fight against poverty, unemployment, and the lingering informal sector. It will also be necessary to strive to achieve an 8% growth rate by embarking on the structural transformation of our economy and enhancing the effectiveness of public spending. In so doing, we will put all the odds of achieving emergence by 2035 on our side. Naturally, we will also continue to implement our social development policy, which was defined at the start of the current 7-year term concerning youth employment, education, health, and the family. These, my dear compatriots, are the outlines of the action that the government has, despite the difficulties, strove to implement in recent months and that it will continue to implement in the coming years, which will be crucial for our progress towards emergence. I am convinced that we will be able to achieve our objectives, provided that we agree to make the required efforts and to embark on the needed reforms. Fellow Cameroonians, my dear compatriots, the year that is ending has not been an easy one. We had to meet many major challenges. We must remain united and determined, like in the past. The Cameroonian people have always risen to the challenges facing them. We should be proud of this. Happy and prosperous New Year to you all. Long live the Republic, long live Cameroon.
Vive le Cameroun.
Merci à nos équipes au Palais de l'Unité qui nous envoient ces belles images de la présidence de la République ce 31 décembre 2020, le Palais de l'Unité où le président Paul Biya vient de prononcer son message à la nation. Vous avez certainement remarqué comme nous ce décor frais, tonique et lumineux. Alors, de sources concordantes, il a été travaillé des jours durant dans le plus grand secret au cabinet civil de la présidence de la République. Bravo à tous ceux qui ont œuvré pour ce beau décor. Nous recevons sur ce plateau Ibrahim Chérif, éditorialiste, directeur central du pôle TV à la CRTV, pour commencer le décryptage de ce message présidentiel à la nation. Ibrahim Chérif, bonsoir.
Bonsoir Vincent Paul.
Bonsoir. Vous avez écouté le président de la République. Quelle première lecture de ce message présidentiel?
Il faut dire d'emblée que le président Paul Biya est en phase avec la population camerounaise. Lorsqu'il commence et consacre une bonne partie de son message à la pandémie du coronavirus, il nous fait comprendre que ce qui a été notre préoccupation numéro 1 cette année 2020, à savoir le Covid-19, eh bien que cela a été aussi le chantier prioritaire de son gouvernement. Autre point à relever dans ce commentaire général, le caractère franchement optimiste du message présidentiel. Malgré le Covid-19, malgré les guerres nord-ouest-sud-ouest, Boko Haram dans l'extrême nord, grand banditisme dans l'Adamawa et à l'est, malgré toutes ces contrariétés, la République est restée debout. L'économie ne s'est pas effondrée, les grands chantiers, notamment ceux du Chan et de la Cannes, se sont poursuivis, le pays ne s'est pas arrêté, Vincent Paul. Plus encore, le Cameroun a poursuivi sa marche en avant en consolidant sa démocratie, en accélérant le processus de décentralisation, en conservant sa capacité de rebond de l'économie nationale. Et lorsqu'on voit les actions qui sont ainsi impulsées par le chef de l'État, notamment la stratégie nationale du développement 2020-2030, la recherche d'un taux de croissance toujours plus important, les plans de reconstruction du nord-ouest, du sud-ouest et de l'extrême nord, entre autres, eh bien, on explique et on justifie aussi l'optimisme dégagé par le message présidentiel de cette fin d'année. Enfin, il faut remarquer que, et vous l'avez dit, Vincent Paul, la parole du chef de l'État ce soir est portée par un bien rafraîchissant décor qui donne de la tonicité et de l'éclat à la prestation du président de la République. Il se dit, dans les coulisses, que ce travail a été effectué par des équipes du cabinet civil de la présidence de la République pendant plusieurs jours. Le résultat à l'antenne est en tout cas agréable au regard.
Ibrahim, sur la pandémie du coronavirus, que dit le chef de l'État?
Eh bien, le président de la République parle de la lutte telle qu'elle a été menée au Cameroun par les Camerounais, avec le résultat qu'on connaît. Malgré les morts, quelques centaines quand même, notre pays a pu éviter le pire. Mieux, on a vu son système, notre système de santé publique, montrer de quoi il est capable. De nombreuses vies ont ainsi été sauvées et le président de la République avait déjà félicité le corps médical. Il salue aujourd'hui encore le dévouement des médecins, infirmiers et autres personnels de santé. À travers la lutte contre le coronavirus, le chef de l'État pose clairement le problème de la relation entre l'homme et son milieu naturel. Souvenez-vous, au début de la pandémie, la grande polémique sur le pangolin comme étant la souche du virus. Et on le sait aussi que nombre d'expériences pour le moins controversées ont cours dans certains pays. Paul Biya pose ainsi la question, faut-il y voir la responsabilité de l'homme? Il appelle d'apporter des réponses pour rassurer la population qui, elle, n'y comprend pas toujours grand-chose. Fait important, le président de la République constate, pour le déplorer, que les Camerounais, d'une manière générale, ne respectent plus les mesures barrières, alors que partout ailleurs survient une deuxième vague de la pandémie. Plus inquiétant encore, une nouvelle souche du virus est apparue, plus méchante encore, cette souche-là. Alors le chef de l'État nous dit, portons les masques, lavons-nous régulièrement les mains, allons à l'hôpital s'il y a lieu. Ça a l'air si simple, mais on constate que les Camerounais n'appliquent pas ces mesures-là. Bref, le président de la République fait appel à notre sens civique, à notre bon sens. Il nous demande de faire attention parce que le coronavirus est toujours là, dangereux et assassin.
Vous parliez de l'optimisme du chef de l'État. Sur quoi se fonde-t-il?
Connaissez-vous en Afrique, Vincent Paul, un pays qui est confronté à autant de crises et de conflits et qui soit aussi résilient que le Cameroun? La crise, que disent? La guerre dans le nord-ouest et le sud-ouest, Boko Haram dans l'extrême nord, les preneurs d'otages dans l'Adamawa, l'insécurité à l'est, à cause de la crise en République centrafricaine. Viennent s'ajouter à tout cela la crise de l'économie mondiale et la pandémie du coronavirus. Malgré tout ce qui vient d'être mentionné, le Cameroun maintient le cap. Sur le plan politique, toutes les élections prévues ces dernières années ont été organisées. Les dernières en date, les régionales ont donné un véritable coup d'accélérateur à notre processus de décentralisation. Sur le plan économique, nous avons notre stratégie nationale de développement 2020-2030 avec un accent sur la diversification et l'industrialisation. Sur le plan social, il y a ce cadeau de fin d'année du chef de l'État aux fonctionnaires et autres agents de l'État. Je parlais ici de la prolongation de l'âge de départ à la retraite de ceux-ci. Cela va coûter quelques milliards de francs CFA à l'État. Mais l'État va assumer parce qu'il en a les moyens. Toutes ces actions et projections dans le contexte difficile qui est le nôtre, c'est au-delà de la résilience, une forte capacité de rebond, selon les termes mêmes du président de la République.
Un dernier mot, et ce sera le dernier, Ibrahim Chérif, sur la crise socio-sécuritaire dans le nord-ouest et le sud-ouest. Un mot également sur la marche de notre démocratie.
Alors, à lire entre les lignes le message du chef de l'État, on comprend très rapidement que pour le gouvernement, le plus difficile est derrière nous, dans le nord-ouest et le sud-ouest. C'est grâce au patriotisme de la majorité des populations des deux régions, grâce aussi à l'efficacité de nos forces de défense et de sécurité. Aujourd'hui, l'armée lutte plus contre des bandits de grand chemin qu'autre chose. Nous avons tous encore en mémoire le drame de l'assassinat des 7 enfants de Kumba. On est très loin d'une lutte de sécession, on est très loin d'une guerre d'indépendance. Sur la marche de notre démocratie, le Cameroun poursuit son bonhomme de chemin, tout simplement, dans le strict respect de sa loi fondamentale. Et dans ce sens, le chef de l'État insiste sur le fait que, parce que le Cameroun est un pays démocratique, l'accès aux responsabilités politiques notamment se fait par la voie des urnes et non par la rue, par les réseaux sociaux et certains médias. Le bulletin de vote, il n'y a que ça de vrai. C'est bon à savoir pour ceux qui se refusent encore et toujours peut-être à entrer véritablement dans le jeu démocratique.
Ibrahim Chérif, éditorialiste, directeur central du pôle télé à la CRTV. Merci pour tous ces éclairages. Et puisque la saison est ouverte, bonne année 2021.
Merci, je vous en prie. Bonne année à vous également.
Merci également. Priscilla.
Yes, Vincent de Paul at Tangana, we continue our first and live reading of the message of the President of the Republic tonight. And we have with us on this set, editorialist and CRTV's Central Director for Radio, Professor George Ewane. Good evening, George.
Good evening, Priscilla. Good evening, Vincent de Paul. Thank you for having me on the set.
You have listened to the President's address tonight. What is your very first reading?
Thank you very, very much. Before I delve into the very content of the President's address tonight, permit me do, like Sheriff did a few minutes ago, and like you guys must have noticed,